Great, thanks. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The time is 5:30 p.m. And we'll start with the item number 2, which is approval of the agenda, that the agenda for the Prescott Heritage Committee meeting of November 6, 2025 be approved as presented. Do I have a movender? Would you be a movender, please, for us, Tracy? Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, Trevor. All in favor? Motion carried. Are there any declarations of interest? Item number 4.1 is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. I have a recommendation that reads that the Prescott Heritage Committee minutes dated October 2nd, 2025 be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Trevor and... Thank you, Tracy. Is there any discussion on the minutes from last time? All in favor? Motion is carried. Page 2. Item 5.1 is a staff report 07-2025 on 356 East Street, an application to remove heritage designation. Before the Heritage Committee this evening is the application to remove a designation. This has been forwarded from Council for us to make a recommendation back to Council. Ultimately, the final decision remains with Council. In order to commence the discussions tonight, we're going to begin by putting a motion on the floor. And the recommendation reads that the Prescott Heritage Advisory Committee recommend to Council that the application to remove the municipal heritage designation for the property known as 356 East Street, or the Stockades, will be denied based on the following reasons. No structural engineering evidence was provided. The property continues to meet the criteria for designation under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act for cultural heritage value or interest, as stated within the original designation bylaw 1962. There has been no decision by the province to remove the provincial heritage designation from the property. Could I get a mover and a seconder for discussion purposes? So move, please, Trevor, and Tracy second. And Chloe, our clerk, is going to speak to this report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the committee this evening. You have received a report with regards to the application to remove the designation, the municipal portion of the designation for 356 East Street. It's worth noting that this property has 2 levels of designation on it, both the municipal bylaw as stated by the chair, bylaw 1962, which was passed in 1977, and a provincial designation, which is registered on title with a trust agreement. The applicant reached out to the township, or to the town, on September 12th, 2025, stating the following for his application. I live at 356 East Street. The town is widening our street and removing our sidewalk. The road and traffic will now be 8 feet from our heritage protected foundation. I have been in contact with the town and the Heritage Ministry. The consensus is that there is no regard for our heritage protected foundation, since the curb is installed and the road to follow. I understand that the town does not respect Prescott's rich historical past. This is very evident by the treatment shown to the stockade barracks in which we live. Please remove the heritage designation on our home if you have no concern for our protected stone walls and foundation. I see no value in keeping the designation. If I can help in this process, please contact me. Staff proceeded to bring this to Council for determination and direction on October 6th, the meeting immediately following the receipt of that application. At that meeting, Council requested and referred the matter to the Heritage Committee this evening. The property, as I stated, is protected by 2 levels of designation, both by the province and by the municipality. It's worth noting that the only jurisdiction that this committee or the municipal council has is over the designation that they imposed, or that the former council imposed in 1977, which is bylaw 1962. The report outlines a variety of factors that have been in play on this file since the beginning of the construction project on East Street. However, for this committee's purposes, the Ontario Heritage Act is very clear on the governing process to remove designations from a heritage property. This is described in section 31 and 32 of the Act, which describes that the property designation may be removed if both or one of these elements is in play, that the property no longer meets the criteria of cultural heritage value or interest, and In the case of the provincial designated properties, that the province approves the repeal. At this time, we're not aware that the province has approved any repealing of the designation, and it is staff's opinion that no fundamental change has happened to the criteria as outlined in bylaw 1962. Therefore, the recommendation before the committee to discuss this evening is to deny the application based on the reasons provided. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. Okay. And I know our homeowner is present, and I wonder if you wish to speak to this.
Yes, the problem I have all through the whole process, and dealing with Matt and going back and forth, the removal of the street and of course the protected foundation, which is the traffic that's going to be right on top of it. But the bigger issue here is the lack of concern by the city and obviously by the committee. When did the Heritage Committee learn about this? About the street and the Stockade Barracks involvement? When did they approach you for that at all?
No, we.
So you weren't in the planning of that or anything?
No, we were not in the planning of the construction.
When I went back and forth with Matt, the information that he gave me onto the city engineer that was in charge of the project, they had no concern, no regard at all. And that's the only information I had. I didn't get it very much from Matt. The only information that I got was from him, and they were taking up 10 feet of our front lawn, the whole width of our property. And in 1977, it was established that there's historical significant archaeological artifacts on the property. And there's been no concern for that, let alone the concern for the foundation. Right. So my concern not necessarily is with the widening of the road or anything like that. It's a concern of the overall feeling. Why should there be a heritage designation on it when it doesn't apply to anything? Especially the artifacts that are on, they just dug it right up and there was no question. I raised it with the heritage minister, which was Andrew John, I think is his name. He was supposedly going to send a letter to the city, but this was never even addressed. So the whole issue is not necessarily the road being widened or the digging up. It's that there was no looking into this situation at all. Not 1 second, not anything from the city or the Heritage Committee, because they didn't even tell you about it, right? That's my understanding.
We were not aware of the construction.
Any of this,
No.
Construction, the artifacts, anything, which I think we all agree that this is a significant heritage property.
Are the artifacts, sorry if I'm incorrect on this, but are the artifacts part of your designation?
Yes, I believe so, yes. I'd have to double check on that, I'm pretty sure. And he referred to that, Andrew referred to that. I assume the city has the letter. Matt, did you get that letter? I haven't heard anything from the city at all. Matt put me on to the engineer of the project, who was just an engineer for the street. This whole heritage thing hasn't been touched. And the whole thing since I first raised it. It hasn't been addressed, it hasn't been anything. It might not be anything, but the way the city has dealt with it, completely unacceptable. And that's why I said they have no regard for the heritage of Prescott, the rich heritage of Prescott, because they didn't even take a day to look over that and say, oh yeah, that's on our foundation, that's on that foundation, or the historical artifacts that are there. We need to do something before they just dig it up. It was never addressed. And if you can tell me that it was, good. They never even gave the chance for the Stockade Barracks to be in forefront and then the importance of it, right? Never even once. And Matt, did you tell the committee, the Heritage Committee about this?
So
About the project, about the digging up, about everything?
Sure. So there is no requirement to do that.
I understand that, and I'm not trying to cut you off or anything, because we're here. I considered this a done deal. Like, as soon as they put in the curb, it was over as far as I was concerned. Right?
So I think there's a couple of things that we need to address. One, we didn't widen the road. So the amount of pavement that is there is more, but where the back of the curb edge is now is where the sidewalk went.
No, it's not. It's about 2 feet wide. I did the measurements and stuff, but honestly, I'm not here to argue.
And we're still in the road right of way.
I'm not here to argue that at all. The city had to do what they had to do. I understand that. I talked to the engineer. They had to widen sidewalks, they had to put gutters in for the municipal, to meet municipal standards for the province. I understand that. The problem is that I have is the city, just like you're saying now, you're not addressing the problem of the historical significance of the stockade barracks and how it was treated. And my point is, if you're not going to agree that it's historically significant, the triple the amount of insurance that I pay on the house because it's historically significant, triple. Why am I doing that? All the restorations that we've done historically correct, and we will still keep doing that. Why would we do that? Why is the designation there? That's my question. And everything that she said from the different points and everything just goes along with this. There's no reason why, if the Ministry of Heritage, this committee and the town doesn't agree just even to talk about it for 15 minutes. This was never brought up at all. And I've more than said it, emails, everybody, I was going back and forth with the heritage minister, well, not minister, but ministry.
Mhm.
He was gonna send a letter here. I've never heard anything from the city about that letter. Anything. So if nobody's taking it serious but us, because nobody in this room can say out loud, the committee didn't know, maybe you didn't know till a week ago. But still, nothing was done all the way through. So if you could tell me, I'll take away my application for it, if you can just say out loud to me, face to face, say, this is why we did this, because we don't care. Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Stan, I'd like to
Yep.
speak here if I could.
Please.
You've certainly opened my eyes a little bit. And I feel very, very poorly that you have taken that stand that you want to wipe out the designation. As you well know, that's a very important piece of property to the town and to yourselves. And we certainly want to preserve the heritage aspect and the impact on Prescott that it has. I think that what we missed, like, first of all, this committee did not have any information on that. Although as a committee, we should have realized that, hey, they're doing major work on this street and there is at least one heritage property on that street. You know, I think that in the future, we should know when these things are being done, like any property that is designated, it should, like, I would love to see the designation on that property that was done in 77.
It was provided to the committee with the.
Was it? Okay, well, I missed the last meeting, but, and I think these artifacts that you're talking about it's probably the surrounding area, the grounds and stuff, much like Parks Canada, that there could be remnants of anything because it was an heavily occupied area at one time. And so therefore they want,
Finish.
they want to preserve that so that you just don't.
No, and we have and I mean, I know Scott and Brad did a lot of work on the house, so I mean, I'm not a stranger to everything, right? But we have musket balls, we have everything that was found on the property, right? So from the dig, there's a lot of artifacts, and they were in the front yard. And like I said to the city, and again, I don't want to get bogged down onto the road and things, but right away I said, you're going to take out the sidewalk, you're going to dig up that whole front, which they did, with no regard to the artifacts or anything. Maybe there isn't any there, but we don't know now, right? It's gone. The other side of the street, I understand that they're putting the sidewalk down. They want to make a unilateral line up the side of the west side of the street to make it even. That's what the architect, not the architect, but the engineer told me, right? So they want to make that all the way up there. But to me, the whole problem is the town did not care, didn't even discuss it, that on the other side of the street, there's at least 15 feet that they could have bumped that back, took away that sidewalk and not touched our side of the street at all.
So I think that gets at the true heart of your argument is that you're mad that, or angry that the sidewalk wasn't reinstated on your
Don't
side.
put words in my mouth.
And I'm
I don't
not,
care about the sidewalk because at first they said they were gonna make it like a green space and things and maybe even a boulevard and everything. I said, sure.
no one said that.
The problem I have with the road is that it moved, like I said, 8 feet. It was basically almost moved 10 feet from where it was, right back to my driveway. Okay, you can come and measure.
Okay, no,
I'm not here to argue.
no, that's fine, but let's let Matthew finish what he was saying, please.
So on multiple occasions, I believe you said, if you just reinstated the sidewalk, I would go away and remove all
No,
of
I never
this.
said that.
So just to speak to the construction itself. So before we do any construction, the part of our contract is to have the contractor work with an agency that actually does a survey of each property internally, if the property owner allows. I believe that occurred in this case.
They dug up the ground and they looked at the artifacts?
To the house specifically.
Right, so they did that. I wasn't aware of
Sir?
it. Sorry, I wasn't aware of it.
So I'm speaking internal to your home. Someone came in and did a,
But for the grounds where they.
No, he's saying internal, in the house. So let him finish what he's saying, Chief, please.
so that's done as a pre-construction survey. Any damage that's caused throughout construction, if there happens to be a claim, they go back to the pre-construction, there's pictures, there's all of that. And then they're able to say, yes, this was caused by, or no, it wasn't. Throughout the construction process, as they move up the street and through the construction, they actually place sensors in basements to measure the actual vibration when you're co-railing. I was getting that confused, is that they're actually measuring that, and it's very specific in terms of the allowable vibration that can occur, and also in all houses, and especially in ours previously designated houses. So those are two different steps. When we're talking about the width of the roadway, yes, the roadway itself is wider in terms of the pavement, but there was a sidewalk there before. That sidewalk has been removed, and we use that sidewalk space as a pavement area. At the same time, we are within the right of way of the road. So what a lot of people don't realize is there is a fair, anywhere from a couple of meters to a few meters of everyone's front lawn is owned by the town or the municipality. And as long as we stay within that envelope, then that is different than going onto someone's front yard. We did not go and enter beyond our road right of way. We stuck to the area that was previously disturbed, and so therefore not encroaching upon that.
Can I address that just for a second?
No.
No, just a minute. Hey, you'll get another, Mr. Sinclair, you'll get another opportunity, okay? Let him finish what he's saying.
When we were going through this process and when we received the letter from the ministry and follow-up, we did engage an architectural firm that specializes in road construction work in relation to road reconstruction projects and heritage homes. They gave us guidelines. They sent that to the ministry. Nothing was received or heard. As in any project, anytime, regardless of whether it's a designated home or not, anytime an artifact is found, we would have to stop work immediately, call in the relevant authorities and move forward with that. Nothing was found in this project. And we had followed all of the recommendations by the Heritage Architectural Consulting firm. So I think to say that we don't care about heritage is inaccurate. It's not the normal forum to go to the Heritage Committee when we're doing road reconstruction work, especially when we're not encroaching upon private property. We're staying within. We have the construction industry has a number of safeguards when it comes to foundations and damaged houses, the pre-construction survey, the measuring the vibration, which is reported in live responses and alerts if there's any anomalies that are outside the norm. And so none of that occurred on this project. And so now to sit there and say that, you didn't say that if we just reinstalled the curb, it is disingenuous. You just wanted the sidewalk on your side.
Sidewalk.
Okay, and certainly everything that I heard that was reported to me, both by staff and by our construction firm, was that was truly the case. That it would all go away if we just put the sidewalk on.
Okay,
Can I address that?
please do. Yes.
Okay, there's a couple different things, okay? Most of it I agree with. Right back to our front door, the city owns, right? So, but my point being, we were, in all my emails and everything, I never said I want that sidewalk back. In fact, I wanted to get rid of the sidewalk, right? So, but the problem is you push the road back right on 8 feet, right on top, and I know this happens all the time, but with the heritage protection on the walls and the foundation, it's unacceptable to me, right? If it was there already, then leave it there. Push it back, and that road is busy. There's a lot of traffic on that road, because people bypass Scott knows, they bypass Edward Street. When they were doing construction, when I came to see Matt, I mentioned to him that the road traffic is incredible up and down there. That's gonna be 8 feet right from my foundation, from the stockade barracks, and there's no reason for it. Just wait, I'll finish, okay? So when you talk about digging back to the town property, which is fine, like I said, the town owns that right to my front door, right at my front door, that's where the line is, right? So what you did is, you dug up that whole area, and I disagree with this part, where you dug up that whole area, probably 10 feet or more on the length of my property, with not even a mention of the historical artifacts there. There might not be anything there at all, but we don't know.
Well, I believe Matthew just said that it was checked
It was
and
not checked. I stood there and watched it. They dug it up with the backhoe. That's how they leveled it out. And that's how they widened it, got rid of the concrete for the sidewalk. That whole area. And if you can look me right in the eye and say, they got down on their hands and knees like they did in 1977 to check for artifacts, then I would question your integrity. Because I didn't see anybody there that whole process, and I watched it. And I didn't see anybody there with any historical knowledge at all. The engineer talked about widening the street, which I don't have.
okay,
Pushing it right back.
okay.
On the foundation.
All right, I'm going to ask Chloe to go ahead and speak, and then we're going to wrap this to a close. Chloe?
I just want to remind the committee of your jurisdiction with regards to heritage properties. And so I think there's been the assumption that something wasn't brought forward to this committee, and to perhaps take the position that we would take adjacent property work into consideration when we're discussing two separate properties is not something that's within the act or within the legislative confines of what this committee has the jurisdiction to impose upon the residents of the town of Prescott. And so I just want to be clear that adjacent work to a heritage property does not trigger this committee to have any say in what's being done to an adjacent property if that property isn't designated itself. The act is very clear about when this committee can weigh in on processes and when you may not. So I just want to be clear that no misaction was taken by the town to not bring this forward previously to this committee. Our requirements under the act are very clear. The other thing that I want to be very clear about is that an application was brought forward with a very specific scope, which was presented to this committee and is part of the report. And so you have the obligation to provide a recommendation back to council as it relates to the Heritage Act and the heritage designation on the property. If there is a separate argument about misgivings of the town, then that's separate of the Heritage Committee and the heritage designation on the property and should be dealt with away from this committee, because it is not within your jurisdiction to make decisions as to whether or not proper action was taken with regards to an operations project.
Correct. Thank you, Chloe.
You're welcome.
Can I add just on that?
Literally, you have a minute.
I don't know why the heritage designation is there.
The heritage designation is there because you meet the criteria.
It's got no teeth.
It does because it meets the criteria. The aspects of your property that have been designated are what are being protected. So can we move to, I'm going to call for the question. I'll remind you of the recommendation. I'll read it again. That the Prescott Heritage Advisory Committee recommend to council that the application to remove the municipal heritage designation for the property known as 356 East Street, the Stockades, be denied based on the following reasons. No structural engineering evidence was provided. The property continues to meet the criteria for designation under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act for cultural heritage value or interest, as stated in the original designation, bylaw 1962. There has been no decision by the province to remove the provincial heritage designation from the property. So calling the question, all in favor of that recommendation? We've got,
Well, I don't think we have any choice.
okay, motion carried. The matter will re-rise at the next council meeting, which is scheduled on November 17th.
I have a document if you want to take it, it doesn't seem like it matters. I'd just like to add just really quickly to the committee. I went back and forth with Andrew, Don about this, about the thing that he was going to give to the city and different things. And he basically said a couple different things to me. But what I'll word it in my own wording is, I hope this is an example to the city, so this won't happen to another heritage property. Especially the artifacts. Forget the widening of the road and things, and I have no concern with the sidewalk. I'm glad the sidewalk's gone, to tell you the truth. Our neighbors hate it, but to me, it's a good thing. But just the way it was treated and the historical significance of that property is not regarded at all. And you can say whatever you want and then whatever the policy is, I understand. But the way it was treated, not even looked at for 10 minutes, the historical part of it, and then obviously the committee didn't know about it. But it wasn't thought about at all. I know he said some historical something, engineer something, but nobody came and looked at it or nobody even discussed it. They didn't kick it around to you. They didn't do anything.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sinclair. Appreciate you giving your.
It's a done deal then, right? So
Well, it is.
there's no point in anything in
It is a done deal, as in it's going back to council. Council is the one that makes the
I'll give you that.
determination.
And again, thank you for your time, but
Thank you.
I'm very disappointed with the city.
That's unfortunate, Stan, but I thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Thanks for
And
coming
you've
in.
known me for a while and we love that house. And
You're-
I'm just
you're-
not even have a conversation about it.
Okay,
No,
But
thank you.
Thank you very much.
5.2, folks.
You too.
5.2, we're going to speak to the heritage training update and which we discussed back on our October 2nd meeting. Chloe's got some interesting information for us with some updates. Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the committee, we do have some updates from LHC, which is the consulting firm that specializes in heritage and archaeological consulting. And so they were originally the firm we had reached out to. They do a lot of training across the province for heritage committees, and they've come back with a proposal to conduct some training. We did have a delay in getting some proposed dates from them. They were in a Ontario Land Tribunal hearing, and so we did have some delays, but they have proposed dates as soon as the end of this month. I briefly discussed this with Karen this afternoon with regards to some timing, and we feel that it would be best to move forward with a date at the end of the month to conduct this training. for a multitude of reasons. One being which it allows for us to do the training before the winter holidays and come into the new year well prepared to continue on with our work. It allows our new members who were very recently appointed on Monday to also be part of this training and to start off their time on the committee with a great footing. I've also had the opportunity to speak with our regional clerks, and there seems to be a decent amount of interest in also attending the seminar. The consultants have said that, we are coming into weather that can be a bit unpredictable, and they recognize that. And so they're able to also pivot on the day if we needed to make it hybrid or to make accommodations if we have attendees who are not able to attend physically in our office. They have initially proposed a kind of set structure to conduct a base 2-hour training, which would be how to conduct evaluations on heritage properties, how to make assessments, and how to find the rationale when we're making the deliberations so that that rationale can be taken and then inserted into the schedules that make up the bylaws that we present to council and to the applicants, and eventually get registered on the property, similar to the one we saw previously, but that was a much older bylaw that might be in need of some improvement. And so this training would provide the committee with the new criteria for the updated heritage evaluation toolkit, as well as resources to help you in a going forward basis to ensure that we're making sound decisions when it comes to whether or not to designate a property and why the criteria are met. They've subsequently also proposed to have an additional aspect of the meeting for proposed questions in general knowledge that they could provide to committees and to heritage professionals in our area. And so they often request that attendees submit questions in advance, and they can kind of do an initial Q&A session where they have prepared answers and then follow up with ad hoc questions that come up through the training as members may feel that they need further clarification. They did also provide that if there is subsequent interest in other areas like reviewing old bylaws, which is something that we know here in Prescott that we will have to do, that they could do a 2-part series and have a dedicated time for those review of our older bylaws and how that process goes and what you should expect and how we look at the criteria and evaluation that were done many years before this committee has sat, and how we then take what was provided at that time and the information that we have available and how we can then translate that into a newer, better version of what the registered bylaws are. So I'm happy to take feedback from the committee. What we had thought might be a proposed starting point would be Thursday, November 27th in the early evening as a option, but I'm happy to take other dates into mind. We were just looking at potentially doing so before the busyness of Christmas.
So can we talk about this? What do you think, folks? Tracy, you look hesitant.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm out of town for work the 26th, 27th, and 28th, and 29th, from Wednesday to Saturday.
I've already got stuff in my schedule on the 27th and 29th as well in the evenings. So.
Okay, so we've got another couple of options. They're available to us from the 20th of November through to about the 5th of December. We have to exclude December 1st and December 4th because there are other events going on in the town then that preclude this. So we can't have those. Would you want to go earlier in November, or do you want to go into the first week of December? What do your schedules look like?
Either of those are fine for me.
Might we look at the 24th or the 25th? The Monday or the Tuesday? Sometimes when we look at the late end of the week, we tend not to like to book things on Fridays. We get lower attendance. I don't know why. People don't like to come and hang out with us on Fridays.
How long a session is this?
So they anticipate 3 hours total with 2 hours dedicated to the criteria assessment portion.
And then Q&A. And we might put in a little mini break or something in there.
So the 25th would work for me.
24th and the 25th are good.
Yeah,
25th.
25th, that's the Tuesday.
Perfect. We can make that happen.
It's a done deal.
Very good.
All right.
The other thing that I wanted to mention that was brought forward from the heritage professional was that there is a training session that's happening in at the end of this month in Kingston, which is being conducted by Dr. Letourneau, who is a heritage professional. This is a very intense heritage training that they often recommend for chairs or co-chairs or anyone with keen interest in heritage or heritage professionals within your municipality or your jurisdiction. We weren't aware of it until today. And so I provided that information to Karen.
Mhm.
The committee might consider sending Karen to this training or anyone else. We certainly have available budget should the committee wish to send additional members. I do know that it is 4 days of training on November 20th, November 21st, November 27th, and November 28th in Kingston with the professor.
Yeah, it's actually the 21st and 22nd, so it's a Friday, Saturday, and then the following Friday,
The
Saturday.
one that came up a few months ago?
No, that was a summer program.
Okay,
So,
Same professional.
no, so I looked it up after I was talking with Chloe about it, and unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of information because you need to write to the man in order to get details. But I did look up him, and he has a PhD in cultural something or other, and MAs in various other things, and geology and geography and.
sounds very boring.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned he might be, but let's see. He does do university teaching of heritage for the University of Waterloo. And I think he might be from that area, but I'm not sure. And I think he's done some work with Queens. He is held in high regard by this company that we are going to be bringing in. And as Chloe has said, they have recommended him. So quite honestly, I feel that it's something that I should do in order to be of maximum usefulness to the committee and to the town. To know the ins and outs and details, because right now I'm in the exact same position you are of having read the heritage toolkit and anything else I can get my hands on. I did quite honestly look to see whether there happened to be an online training somewhere that I could participate in rather than going for 4 days to lovely Kingston. But I couldn't find anything other than unless I was interested in the designation of culturally significant buildings within municipalities that are not homes, like the fort. I could have my online training on forts in Canada if you wish me to do that, but so I'm okay with going if you think that it is something that is worth doing.
I certainly think it's worth you willing to put 4 days of your time and so on, and I don't see why we can't support it.
The funding would be, we don't know what the total would be because I don't know the details. But at this point, the 4 days is $675 plus HST. So the proposal, if we do this, is that you would agree to a maximum of 1,500. That's more than is going to be necessary, but that allows us to find out whether or not meals are included. And, it would be 2 nights of hotel. It would be the 2 Friday nights of hotel in downtown Kingston. So any further discussion on that? I'll give you the motion if you're interested. The motion is that the Prescott Heritage Committee authorize the spending of up to 1,500 from the training budget to allow Chair Karen Hume to attend the Introduction to Heritage Planning provided by the Frontenac Heritage Foundation. Do I have a mover for that? Scott, seconder, Trevor, thank you. And all carried, everyone agree, all in favor? That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. So that is carried. There are no questions from the media. And item 8 for us is adjournment. So, I did want to, before we get to that, I wanted to mention that we have, as you know, the 2 new members. So we're going to be obviously inviting the 2 new members to come to this training session. And what we would like to do is then not have a meeting in December, but rather we'd like to go ahead and book our meeting for January. And we would like to make sure that at the end of the training session, we are all provided with the entire remainder of the properties that are on the list that we need to review. Now, that's not as onerous as it sounds because we've already got 5 of them. We've had them for a number of months. So we're talking about getting the other 10. And then ideally, and if we need to have new criteria sheets or something like that as a result of the training, then Chloe and Chelsea will make sure we get those, within a short period of time. But ideally, then we would at the January meeting address that list. Let's get the list done so that we can move on and go on with the programs that we want to develop, the educational programs, the support for the general public, the plaques that we've been talking about. Let's see if we can work with those 15 properties in January. It would give everyone almost 2 months to take a look at them. And with the training fresh in mind, it should be, she says, a relatively painless procedure to go through those. What do you think of that?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I would aim for the end of January to give us the full 2 months to have time to get through it all.
Yeah. So if we looked at the January date, I think was the 22nd?
Yes, we could look at the 22nd or the 29th, depending on the committee's desire. I was just looking at the kind of keeping us or putting us back to like that third.
The 3rd Thursday, but it doesn't have to be.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Right now, there's nothing in the calendar.
That will change very soon. Is it?
The Roma is from the 18th to the 20th, 18th to the 21st, I apologize. Which is why we will make recommendations to council at the next meeting as to when your January council meeting dates are.
Okay. So are we all right with the 22nd? Is everyone all right with the 22nd?
You'll be back.
I would be back.
You're okay with it? Okay, I think we are good then. So now we're adjourning, folks. I have a recommendation that the Prescott Heritage Committee meeting be adjourned. The time is 6:13 p.m. Do I have a mover and a seconder? A mover, a seconder. Thank you, Scott and Trevor. And all in favor?